Hey guys, that Anime Gamer guy here, talking to you like this because my webcam's being a jerk. Anyway, I'm about to go watch Shin Godzilla at my local movie theater, and I cannot be more excited. So I'm going to be leaving in right now because I want to get there an hour early, and when I get back, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and my review of Shin Godzilla. Yeah, I'm gonna go now because I'm about to crap myself of excitement. See ya.
One screening later.
Okay, Shin Godzilla. I went to the theater, got my cozy little middle seat in the middle section, I watched the film, and I'm going back to watch it again tomorrow. I'm serious. That was that good, in my opinion. Okay, so I'm gonna split this video up into two segments. First, the spoiler-free thoughts, and then the spoiler-full review. Here's a time caps for when the review is coming up, and that's the point where you need to stop if you haven't seen the movie yet, and this is actually the spot where you want to go to if you've already seen the movie and you want the full review of the film. Anyway, first, the thoughts. So, where do I begin? The look of Godzilla. Phenomenal. In this particular story of Godzilla, the way Godzilla looks is completely needed. From how terrifying he looks with the jagged teeth and missing chunks of flesh to the distortion in his tail, phenomenal. That's what Godzilla needs to look like in this specific film. The sound and soundtrack to the film. Nostalgia fuel. That's what that is. It's pure nostalgia because most of the soundtrack and sound effects for the film are taken straight from the Showa era of Godzilla, the golden age of Godzilla, if you will. From the cheesy explosion sound effects, like the pew, pew, that kind of sound effect, to Godzilla's roars. Yes, there are multiple roars. There's the 1954 Godzilla roar in there. There's the roar from the later on Godzilla films in the Showa era, and even like some of the sounds that the tanks and military machinery makes are from the Showa era of Godzilla, and that is beautiful. The acting. I don't speak Japanese, so I cannot give full thoughts on the acting, so I'm gonna have to go on how they emote while acting. Now, the acting is plain-faced sometimes, but with this story of Godzilla, it fits, in my opinion, because when you have a massive threat like Godzilla, especially in this film, where he's the biggest threat in the world at that moment, it's warranted to where they're 100% serious. 100% serious face. It is 100% needed in this particular story of Godzilla. I have not thought about how I was going to talk about this movie. The movie, it stuck with me, and I have no idea how to do it justice without giving spoilers, which I can full rein on that when it comes to the review time, but it's not review time yet. Okay, let's go with the cinematography. The cinematography in this film is also very good. There are shots in there that are very creative, especially the one in the trailer I like to call it the tank shot, when you're on the stinking rim of the tank when it's turning. It's amazing. That's a very nice shot. There's also other shots where sometimes the camera's in a place where it shows the urgency of the situation from the point of view of something, and that is grand. Now that's about as spoiler free as I can get, so on to the review. So, in my opinion, this movie isn't the best Godzilla film. It's not the worst Godzilla film. In my opinion, it's a Godzilla film. And that is what I expected going in. That's what I got when I got out. It's a Godzilla movie with Godzilla. From Japan. Made by Toho. Need I say more? The way the movie begins is kind of confusing, but when you see the rest of the movie, you understand why the movie starts off like that. It's to introduce Godzilla itself. And the way Godzilla first appears in the movie is from a massive water explosion, as I like to call it. And what this water explosion does is it shoots water up into the air, and underneath in the underground subway, it leaks water into the tunnel and also some sort of bloody substance. And that is how Godzilla is introduced to the movie, from that water geyser. And Godzilla's first appearance is in his Eelzilla form, as one YouTuber put it, and where instead of him upright, he just slithers around, knocking down and destroying things with his loosely moving body. Then Godzilla evolves into what I like to call Sprintzilla, because in that form Godzilla can run extraordinarily fast. And the main character of this movie, our main protagonist, is a cabinet member of Japan who is one of the main people to go to when the Prime Minister of Japan needs to make a decision. They learn that Godzilla can evolve at a rapid pace, which is how Godzilla managed to form into the actual Godzilla form that we are most familiar with. And the main first half of the film is basically just them testing Godzilla to see what is effective, what isn't effective, what the monster is capable of, and how we can get rid of it. That is the main first half of the movie, and going on after that, they actually figured out a way to stop Godzilla. They learned that after Godzilla uses up too much energy, he will completely shut down, freeze in place. So they figured if they managed to keep him like that for a prolonged period of time, they might be able to get enough time to figure out what to do with him. And their idea to do so is with a blood coagulant that corrupts Godzilla's DNA to where he freezes for a prolonged period of time. At the same time, the US government wants to fire a nuke into Tokyo to eradicate Godzilla, which is kind of a typical way that we deal with these problems. If something threatens us, blow it up. Now, the Prime Minister of Japan doesn't want this to happen because it's Tokyo, it's the main area of Japan. However, he doesn't really have that much of a say in the matter, considering Russia and China already signed off on that plan. So he has no choice begrudgingly to agree. So Godzilla's frozen in Tokyo, the clock is ticking, and they need to make this coagulant as fast as possible to prevent a nuclear fallout to hit Japan. Well, Tokyo, I mean. So they get to work, and they get the aid of France. There's a lot of areas of the world working together to stop Godzilla. That's how much of a threat he is in this film. And France helps them create this coagulant to freeze Godzilla. And they made a plan, an operation, if you will, to eject this into Godzilla using fire hoses and tanker trucks. Now, to start this plan, they need Godzilla to stay perfectly still and at a low enough level for them to inject the coagulant. So their idea is to send explosive bullet trains into Godzilla's legs, causing him to fall over, and then setting off timed bombs in buildings to collapse on top of him so he can stay immobile. First part of the plan goes off without a hitch, but then Godzilla gets his second wind, fires off his atomic breath, which is purple, as you probably already know, and wipes out the first unit of this operation. They manage to do this again for a second time after Godzilla destroys a bunch of drones in the sky, and they manage to stop Godzilla, freeze him in place by using more explosive bullet trains. Instead of 2 this time, they used every single bullet train they could use, causing Godzilla to collapse immobile, which gives them enough time to inject the other 80% of the coagulant, which freezes Godzilla in place. Godzilla is frozen there in the middle of Tokyo, and he's going to remain like that, I think they said, for about 3 months, which gives them 3 months to figure out what to do with him. That's Godzilla Resurgence, and I have to say, top notch. Well done, Toho. Well done. Now, one part of the film to note is that the 1954 occurrence never happened in this timeline. This is the first time Godzilla's been introduced to the world, and his origin is completely different. Instead of being born from nuclear waste from a nuclear bomb, he is instead spawned from several of dumped radioactive toxic waste barrels dumped into the Pacific Ocean, which I find kind of interesting because in the 1954 film, Godzilla was the result of an atomic bomb, while in this movie that isn't the case, but instead he has the force and destructive capability of an atomic bomb, which is, in my opinion, kind of evens out the difference in Godzilla's origin in this movie. Another thing to know, which has been spoiled for me already from a different YouTube channel, that Godzilla has more ways than one to disperse his atomic powers. He can shoot them from his back in a giant field of lasers, or he can fire them from the end of his tail as well. Which brings me to the ending of the movie when Godzilla's frozen. There's this weird little tidbit where it looks like these little Godzilla man demon things are spawning from his tail. I don't know what that means, but I think that might get explained in a later addition to this new era of Godzilla, which I will dub the Shin era, because Shin Godzilla was the first Godzilla film in this era. All in all, it's a very good adaptation of Godzilla in my opinion, and if you're into Godzilla, I would recommend going to see it. You'd be completely entertained by this movie. It's Godzilla, that's what it is. However, if you are new to Godzilla, if you've only seen the 2014 American movie and figured you want to watch the Japanese films now, I would recommend that you do a little research first, watch a few of the older Japanese movies before going into this one. Otherwise, you'd be completely lost. As James Ralph said in his review of the film, watch it if you're a Godzilla fan, don't go see it yet if you're not quite there yet. Anyway, this is that Anime Gamer Guy, and I will see you guys in the next video.